Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace. We have a returning creator, one of my favorite writers, the brilliant Mark Russell is joining us once again to tell us about his upcoming project with AWA. Mark, hey, good to see you.
Oh, good to see you, Jace.
Yeah, so for those that may have missed it, Mark was on previously to talk about Superman Space Age, his Eisner-nominated series at DC. Now we've got Batman Dark Age, which just started, set in the similar universe, which has just been fantastic. First issue's out already. But you have this project coming up, this very topical, which a lot of times your stories are very topical. So
Sadly.
yeah, this project with AWA, Death Ratioed. So let's start off with the elevator pitch. Let our listeners know what it's about, and then we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty.
Well, it's about a future where social media has taken the place of government. So all justice is meted out via social media, and everyone has an exploding neck bracelet where if your death ratio, meaning too many dislikes to likes, gets too bad, it basically just explodes and takes your head off with it. And that's what keeps everyone polite.
Yeah, I mean, and some of you may be thinking, "Oh, that's so far-fetched," especially those of us in the comic industry of, recent events, what have you. It feels all too real. Any trepidation with examining this, or you think it's a conversation that we need to have?
I think if I have any trepidation, it's not so much talking about this. It's about maybe talking about it in sort of a frothy, funny way, and not like maybe with the depth and gravity that we probably should have this discussion, because it really is, I think, sort of an existential threat to human civilization, which I guess is how I usually approach existential threats to human civilization with humor and sort of satire, because I don't know what else to do about it. But to me, the real danger of social media isn't really cancel culture or anything like that. It's mandatory mass consciousness. It's that we are all joining into one sort of mediocritized version of consciousness, or barring that, if you want to escape from that, then you're basically forced to join, little prison gangs that exist within the mass consciousness for survival, which is, as we see it in social media, it's like there are people who, in a lot of ways, it has not made people more polite. It has not made people nicer. It's made them even more outlandish and aggressive. And these people say things to each other on social media they would never say in a million years to somebody in the actual room, because it's little wolf packs of trolls now. And that to me is like one of the great dangers of social media. It's not only that it sort of is forcing this conformity for people who want to like be in the mainstream of human consciousness, but also it's incentivizing this sort of misanthropy, this idea that that you can exist as a predator online and get away with it because you've got this gang of jackals at your back.
Yeah, and you're the perfect person to examine this because, as you mentioned, so often your work involves satire and kind of turning the lens around at ourselves. And I know you include yourself in that. So let's take a step back. Let's talk about this in terms of, okay, so it's a popularity contest. That's existed time immemorial since there's been society. The people that are most popular or can make the most kind of social connections can really ascend to the top, ascend to the leadership, whether or not they're capable or not. Isn't that really what we're talking about here in a way?
It's not so much the popularity that's the problem. It's the calculation of what will make you popular. And in this future, the people who are the only real celebrities are influencers, or in other words, people who are famous just for being popular. They don't necessarily have any talents. They aren't necessarily able to do anything that that would make them popular. It's just the popularity itself is their skill.
So
And
that
that's the danger. I think that there's a certain power that popularity and sort of mass followers confers that is not, really based on anything other than just their ability to sort of work the system and get followers.
is it really a confluence of things, right? Like I read an article in the last couple of years that's said something about like the most popular. thing that second graders said they wanted to be when they grew up was like a YouTuber, influencer, that kind of thing. You and I, when we were at that age, that wasn't even a thing, right? So,
Right. Nobody was really famous just for being famous, unless you're maybe a member of the British royal family or something.
right.
Everyone was famous for doing something. And to me, that's sort of the danger is that this will take that social media um, popularity and clout would take the place of human accomplishment.
But even if you did have somebody that was, say, popular for the sake of being popular, or just had the ability to manipulate people or kind of, pull the wool over people's eyes, it was a smaller reach as well, right? So if you had somebody
Right.
in your high school or whatever, what are they influencing a few thousand people to become class president or, captain of the cheerleader squad or whatever? Now, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the point you made earlier about having that gang at your back, those jackals at your back to back you up. Now all of a sudden it's worldwide. You're reaching people that you never would have. A bit of an echo chamber, and we've seen it with especially with people with mental illness being online. It reinforces beliefs that may not be true, that would never have been reinforced because they never would have found anybody to agree with them, right?
Right. It makes you feel like you're part of the mainstream because you found, a million other anti-vaxxers who are all motivated to join in and back you up whenever you say that you think that drinking bleach will cure you of cancer or something.
Right.
You'll find a number of people who will back you up, and that's sort of intoxicating. Having belonging to this sort of small cult that feels like this is the real truth, just bubbling under the surface because you've got 1,000 people really motivated to echo your message, as opposed to like saying, "Well, no, bleach doesn't cure cancer," which nobody's motivated to say that because it's so obvious.
Right.
It's like there's not a big campaign out there to disprove that bleach, you know, will cure cancer because it just seems so outlandish and ridiculous on its face that nobody really is exercised about it. But if you say something like, "Oh, the Earth is flat," then you can find hundreds of thousands of people who are attracted by the very fact that it's this hottest of hot takes that are willing to sort of go to war for you. And so in a lot of ways, it's really sort of weaponized disinformation in a way it wasn't really possible before social media. And I worry about feeling like, oh, these are old man criticisms. This guy didn't grew up before social media and it's just grandpa, shouting at a cloud. But I have to say it really is, I think, more a source of empathy and compassion for the younger generation that's growing up and never having known anything else. Because when I was a kid, when somebody got bullied or harassed, they could go home and there was an escape for it. You could go home and it was over. You were with people who loved you, presumably, and you could recover from it. Now it just never ends. It's like if you're being hectored or harassed by an angry mob, they will follow you home via your social media. There's no escape from it. And I really just shudder and I think we're already seeing the mental health effects that this is having on children and the incredible pressure to not only just be popular, which all kids really want to be popular, but to never make any mistakes, to never stray outside to never take any chances on a personality that's going to get them sort of targeted.
Yeah, I mean, again, I say it all the time. Like, thank God I didn't grow up in that time when any mistake you made, it was put out there on the internet, lived forever. You never could get away.
Yeah, if I could pass one law governing social media, I would say that everyone gets like a button that sort of completely erases all of the things they've said online or all of the opinions or hairstyles they've had before the age of like 18. So
Yeah,
when you turn 18, you can press that button, and everything that referring to you online is just gone, just completely blank slated.
yeah, it would.
I
Yeah,
don't know how that would work logistically, but if I could do it, that's what I would do. Because I feel like in a lot of ways, having grown up in the pre-internet age, I had the chance to sort of mature and become an adult and did all my dumb shit sort of before anyone was really watching.
yeah. People had a chance to forget that you did this. But again, I think it's such a confluence of things, and I find it to be so fascinating, but also a danger, which I think is what you're trying to get at, and we'll see if you can tease a few aspects of the story in just a second. But one other thing that I want to kind of get your thoughts on the also the idea of being able to attack somebody or say something. You mentioned people would say something on social media they would never say to somebody's face. Um, and that idea of having the anonymity or being able to hide behind the, the screen, they can't reach out and punch you. But the other part of that is we call it social media. As humans, we're social animals. But if anything, social media is like super isolating, right? Because that is a social contract, right? I won't say this to your face because we're in proximity to each other. You might physically attack me or what, that sort of thing. Those are sort of social rules that we learned as human animals. And now that's taken away by the anonymity of being behind a keyboard. So in a way, it's almost anti-social media, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, the way we evolved to eat, things that we can sort of hunt and gather, and things like Twinkies and, cinnamon rolls, as delicious as they are nothing, are not things we ever really evolved to eat. And so our bodies don't process them very well. I think social media is kind of the same thing for social interactions. We are social creatures, but we've evolved to deal with people in person, to deal with small groups of people. There's a concept called the Dunbar number, which is like the number of people that you can sort of keep in your head and know things about. It's about 150. We've evolved knowing which ones are trustworthy, which ones aren't, which ones which ones we like a little less, which ones are family, which ones are friends, and that is sort of the social environment in which we evolved. We did not evolve to like have, a million or potentially billions of people shouting at us or
Yeah.
talking to us. And I think what that has done is it's forced us into these survival mechanisms of anonymity, both for ourselves, like feeling like we need to be anonymous in order to survive this onslaught of social humanity, and also other people feel like liberated to do things, to be a little more sociopathic than they would otherwise because they feel anonymous. And this has, of course, been one of the central core problems of civilization ever since human beings began living in large numbers together. Is like, how do you keep people from acting like sociopaths, knowing that they're going to run into people who don't know them and will probably never see them again. And social media, I think, just sort of exponentially exacerbates that problem of how do you treat people like family or friends when you have absolutely no incentive to do so, and you may never they might never see you again.
Yeah, it's in a way it's a lack of consequences, right? Like I can say whatever I want and you can't do anything to me.
Yeah, and I think not only consequences, but just like connection. We generally most of the people that I consider really good friends that I really care about, I didn't really care about them upon the first meeting.
Mhm.
It took a little while. It took brushing up against them, having a few conversations for me to really sort of understand this is somebody I really like. And on social media, obviously you foster some relationships. You have some people you have multiple contacts with, but by and large, for the most part, you never really get that chance to sort of build up the affection for people that we have sort of evolved to inform our social interactions in, as hunter gatherers or as human beings, who are most people we come in contact with. We're coming in contact with a lot, and so we're forming very educated opinions about them. And the people we don't come into contact with that much, we're generally seeing as a threat, or as as an enemy.
Yeah. Again, like fascinating topics, and it's one of the things and fascinating ideas to think about. One of the things I love about your work, the fact that even after I read it, I'm thinking about it later. In this case, I'm thinking about it even beforehand because it's such a great topic. But I'm sure there's listeners out there going, "Tell us more about what the story's about." So, these
Yeah,
are
all of that.
yeah, these are
Yes.
cool ideas, and of course we don't want to spoil, but give us an idea if you can talk about any of the characters or any kind of broad plot points of how you're going to explore this in this world where everybody's got a neck bomb on, and hey, if you're too unpopular online, that's it.
Yeah. No. So the story follows Arnold Lane, who is a guy who comes out of a 23-year coma, and he is like basically a contemporaneous to us. He's a guy alive right now, a researcher at MIT. Has some bad appetizers at a restaurant and goes into a 23-year coma, and he comes out to find that that the world is basically run by social media now, and his his fiance at the time was killed during the social media wars. Soon after he went into a coma, and his brother is like, no one knows what became of him. So it's him trying to navigate this world, having been in which is sort of the way I felt when, social media started taking over everything. I felt like this Neanderthal who just, if unfrozen caveman lawyer just suddenly emerged and it's like, oh, I don't understand these social medias that you people have. But the doctor and the social workers try to like induct him into this brave new world. And to them, this is no big deal. This is just the way things are. But to him, it's an absolute nightmare. So I think to everybody else, it's sort of this cute, sort of quaint, almost sitcom-y situation where this man who's been in a coma is having to figure out the internet, and to him, it's like a horror movie. And so that the plot basically is about him trying to like find his way into society without having his neck explode.
So is this an idea that you've been working on for a while? Was it born out of those early moments of social media for you where you're like, man, how do I navigate this? Or is
Yeah,
this something that's come more recently?
I've actually had this story idea for a while, for probably about 8 or 9 years, and it's one of those pitches that's always just been kind of lurking in the background of my, something I've always wanted to do, but I didn't really think it was warranted a full series. It was more like a one and done type of idea. So it really took a project like this, like AWA wanting a longer one shot, which you don't get it right a lot of these. So when you do, it's hard to find an idea that fits like say like a 40-page one shot. And so, but I felt like that was sort of the perfect opportunity to dust off this old story idea, which I felt that's about the perfect length for this story and write it like for this project.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your artist on the project as well, because I feel like it's a tough assignment for an artist. You got to imagine this future, and then you got to decide, is it a super clean future? Is it a little more, post-apocalyptic? Is it, 1984 Orwellian? But also, it sounds like you got to have the humor as well, which is a challenge. But then very much a human and kind of an emotional. You got to make sure you get those facial expressions right, and so we can understand what this guy's feeling, so we can put ourselves in his shoes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so Lacey is the artist, and Lacey did an incredible job, I think, doing just that, sort of threading the needle between the dystopian and the futuristic. Because I think the thing I didn't want, thing I think is kind of misleading usually about dystopias is that they're so visually obviously a dystopia.
Mhm.
Everything's dour and in ruins, and it just looks like East Germany 1949 or
Right.
something. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've convinced ourselves not to worry about these, because of, well, there's the Taco Bell still open. We can't possibly be living in a dystopia. Look how colorful it is. And so I wanted a dystopia that looked like it was actually everything was fine. So there's these really futuristic buildings. It's really a colorful world. It looks like maybe the world we'd want to live in, except for the one fact that you're at any given point in time, your head might blow off. And so Lacey did a really good job of capturing that world and making it look at once attractive and yet kind of ominous. And also, I think the expressions of the characters just really did a great work on that. Like how um, Arnold is terrified almost all the time. He just looks like somebody who woke up in the wrong movie. And everybody else seems like perfectly well adjusted and happy to live in this world, which is like this great sort of, I think this is how, it would actually work. If you woke up suddenly in a dystopia, none of the people living there would realize it was a dystopia. You, as the newcomer, would be the one person realizing this is a nightmare. Get me
Yeah,
out.
no frame of reference. They know nothing different. So, yeah, the preview pages I've seen. If you're watching us on YouTube, everybody, you can see a few of the preview pages I put down there. Yeah, the art it looks fantastic. Was it something that Lacey got right away? Was it a series of conversation? I know he's Serbian, so like any kind of communication challenges or what have you?
Well, AWA facilitated a lot of the communication, but yeah, one of the things I like to do when I start a series is to create like just a little sort of style guide
Hmm.
where I talk about what I think the building should look like and some like photographs for references, and also just sort of the tonality. But yeah, he didn't require really much more than just that initial conversation. He was pretty much on it. In fact, when Axel started showing me his initial artwork before we even really started doing the layouts and stuff. I was just kind of blown away by it because I thought this is actually better than what I was telling him to draw.
Right.
But he's obviously got the concept, so just maybe let him go and maybe not let me ruin it with my own ideas.
Yeah, so it's going to be out soon, everybody. I'll get the exact date for you in just a second. But let me, as we're winding down here, Mark, let me ask you this. Typically you do kind of minis or kind of longer form story. You mentioned this one being kind of a longer one shot, but a one and done. So it's not necessarily a certain issue that you might be looking forward to seeing what reader reaction, but maybe it's a moment that you want to know if it resonates. Are people going to be talking about it online on social media, which is kind of ironic. Is there one that comes to mind? And can you, vaguely, again, we don't want to spoil, but kind of vaguely give us an idea of what it's about?
I think one of the funnier moments, and one of the ones I like just seeing Lacey's drawings for was in the future, everyone is required to post nude pictures of themselves online. So there's absolutely no
Oh,
sort of threat of, I mean, for like revenge porn and stuff. It's just, well, everybody's got them online. You don't have to worry about it. And so his social worker, the first time he comes to Colin Arnold, like takes some pictures of him coming out of the shower. And every now and then, like after that, when he's like walking the streets and stuff, you'll just see like on like a jumbotron or something in the background, this picture of him naked standing there. I thought that was really funny.
that's great. And I can, again, this is what I love about the way your brain works. You come up with these ideas that seem far-fetched, but as soon as you take a second to think about it, it's like, that's really closer to reality. We're almost there, almost, where we're at right now.
I think that's maybe one of the better aspects of this future is, yeah, we're all sort of equally humiliated, I guess.
Yeah. Well, at least you know that first time you're intimate with somebody, no big surprises, no giant, moles or what have you, I guess. So in that way, I guess a little bit of positivity comes out of it. But Death Ratio, everybody, it's going to be in stores Wednesday, May 29th, or available digitally. I'm sure we'll be reviewing it and talking about it when it hits. So now's the time to tell your retailer that you want to pre-order it. Maybe remind them again in a few weeks when FOC, final order cutoff, comes around, because with some of these books from smaller publishers like AWA, they might not be ordering copies for to have on the shelves and what have you. It might just be pre-order only. So be sure to let your retailer know that you are interested in it, because if you've been listening, I mean, I don't know how you would not want to read it. It just sounds like such a fascinating idea. So as we're winding down here, Mark, anything else you want our listeners and viewers to know?
Yes. Please also check out Traveling to Mars, the collected edition of it. The issue number 11, the final issue just came out. And if you haven't been following it, please let your local comic shop know that you want the collected trade paperback. I feel like it's maybe the best thing I've ever written. And so I really am eager to get that in front of as many people as possible. So Traveling to Mars, please contact your local comic shop and let them know you want a copy of the trade paperback.
Yeah, sounds like we might need to have you back on to talk about that.
I'd be happy to come back anytime.
So again, everybody remember Death Ratioed May 29th. Let your retailers know. And Mark, if somebody does want to follow you on social media, I know you're not super active, but if they have a question or want to follow your work, because I know you do announce when new things are dropping, what have you, where's the best place to follow your work online?
I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Threads, and I'm on Instagram. And my handle at all of them is the same. It's Manruss, Manruss.
And I'll put links to Mark's social media in the show notes, everybody. So if you're having trouble finding them, you can go there. So again, Mark, great chatting with you. Keep up the great work on Traveling to Mars and Batman Dark Age, and really looking forward to Death Ratio.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jace.
Yep, my pleasure. And to you listeners, want to thank you as well. We appreciate the support as always, and we will talk to you next time.